Hey, Scott here. Today we're going to work on my 50-year-old sailboat, the Chrysler Man-O-War. The only piece that I'm missing for this thing is the tiller for the rudder. I lost that a long time ago, so we're going to fashion a new one, and here's how I did it. Remember, good important part of life, be a problem solver, not a problem. Alright, so we're working on an old Chrysler Man-O-War sailboat, and as I mentioned in my previous video, the only piece I'm missing is actually the tiller. Right now here we're looking at the rudder, and we're looking at the rudder extension pole, otherwise some people call it a hiking stick. And what happened is years ago it broke, and of course you're not going to be able to find replacement parts for a 50 some year old boat now. So and the tiller, I don't know even know what happened to that. It disappeared in my garage, or maybe in the metal, it got tossed in a metal bin or something like that. But it was just a aluminum tube. So what I did is I went online, I scoured the internet for information about these boats and pictures and stuff, and I'm going to put a link to a Chrysler sailing forum, a Chrysler boat forum that I visit from time to time, got some information from there. But once some of the information I did get from there, another Man-O-War sailor was able to take pictures of his setup like I have here, and it included a tiller that was 47 inches long. So I have here a 1-inch aluminum tube that is 47 inches long. Got it from the hardware store. Unfortunately, the hardware store sold them in 3-foot lengths, and then from there jumped to 8. So I actually had to buy an 8-foot length just so that I could use half of it. So 20 bucks, but I think it's worth it to get this boat up and running. So here I have the aluminum tube. That's going to be my new tiller. It goes into here. And then I have to figure out how to attach this to the tiller. And I went on the internet and did a bunch of research and looked around, and I found this thing here, a universal joint. I will put a link in the description for this as well. It came off of Amazon, about 15 bucks. And we're going to be attaching that to this and that. Now here, this mess right here is obviously not going to work, so I'm thinking that I'm going to cut this off, and then I'm going to put this on in its place and mount the whole thing to the aluminum tube. So stick with me and we'll get her done. Alright, so with the hiking stick or tiller extension, there's a little bit of a bend in it, you'll see here. And what I'm going to do is cut this off right here and then try to straighten the bend a little bit. And then we're going to attach this piece. Now I think this is solid aluminum because it's definitely not hollow, and it's not heavy enough to be stainless. And I tried to put a magnet to it, and the magnet doesn't stick, so that tells me this is aluminum. But let's cut that off and see what we got. Alright, so I was able to cut the end off there, and I was wrong. This is not solid aluminum. It is actually a hollow tube, and I was able to straighten it pretty good in the vise. And so now the idea is to take this piece and mount it on there like that. So I'm going to drill some holes through this tube, and I got some stainless steel screws to run through it. Alright, so here we go. I took some 832 stainless steel machine screws that were 1 inch long. I used lock nuts on them, and I drilled through all the way through the aluminum tube and screwed everything down tight. So there we go. Our hiking stick has a new end on it. Now let's see about attaching it to the tiller here. I'm thinking something like that, and drill through that and anchor that down there. Let's get her done. Okay, so over the end of this this tiller, I just got these leg tips, 1 inch, and it was a good snug fit over the end of this pipe. So now you got a little bit of a handle there, and I decided to move this to a good position where you'll have plenty of hand room. And as you see here, I've got the swivel mounted. Now I drilled through, obviously, and used stainless steel, again 832 screws for there with lock nuts. And I also bought fender washers, stainless steel fender washers, and I put a slight bend in the fender washer so it would wrap around the pipe a little bit. Rather than use regular washers, I wanted it as snug as possible and as safe as possible. There were other people online that suggested rivets, but I tell you what, I feel more confident in these stainless steel screws than I do in rivets. So here is the tiller so far with the hiking stick attached. Now when I first got this is pretty stiff, but there's plenty of leverage here, and I think I'd rather have it actually a little bit stiff when I'm on the boat than too loose. I don't know, we'll find out. So anyway, now we need to attach this end in there. So on the rudder itself, we got to put the pipe in this hole here in the end, 1 inch, and then how we secure it, I can't remember how it was secured in the past. Might have been some sort of a spring snap or something, but there's a hole in the top right here. So I want to put this this rudder or tiller in the end of this hole here, and I'm just going to use a self-tapping sheet metal screw to anchor it in, because it's going to be a little snug, and so I'm not too concerned about it coming out. Alright, that is all the way. Now let's rotate this so the hiking stick is on top. And now we'll get our screw and put it in here. Alright, so I think I've got the rudder and this kind of lined up nice and straight. So I'll put the screw in the other end. I did notice too that this is actually hitting on the rudder, so I'm gonna maybe grind the tip of that screw off a little bit, and maybe I'll put a bumper or something somewhere along here so that that doesn't rub too much. So let's do this. What I have here is a stainless steel self-tapping screw. I forget exactly what size, maybe a 12 or something like that, about 1 inch long. And it does have this rubber washer on it. I'm not too concerned about that, but it came with it. We're just going to drive it in here. Now the hole is a little bit slotted, so I'm going to try to make it as far to this edge of the hole as possible so that the rudder doesn't slide out at all. There we go. Now that rudder is secure. Maybe go a little bit more here. There we go, good and tight. Alright, cool. Alright, so here's my new rudder tiller. on the boat. It's not attached to the back of the boat because there's some work that needs to be done back there, but that is another video. So we've got the pieces all assembled, and I did take my grinder and I ground off a little bit of extra length of screws down here and down here that I had, no problem. I was concerned about scratching right here, but look at this. I mean, I forgot that if this is like this, then it'll be touching even after I ground it off a little bit. But just a matter of spinning it like there, and suddenly it's not touching at all, or even upside down. So it's no longer a concern of mine. But there it is. There's the tiller and the rudder, almost ready for action. Thanks for watching.